History does not only write about the winners. Sometimes it tells of those dark mornings where arrogance drowned in the rivers. Europe's invincible knights were certain they would erase the Turks from history that day. But before them stood not just an army, but a thunderbolt. In the greatest showdown of the Middle Ages, why did thousands of knights vanish in a single day? Today we dive into the depths of Nicopolis. The year is 1396. The feudal heart of Europe was trembling with the footsteps of the Ottoman shadow rising from the east. King Sigismund of Hungary's plea for help echoed from Paris to London. The Christian world was preparing to play its final great gamble. For the French nobles and Burgundian knights, this was not a war. It was a parade of glory and honor. Their pride was heavier than their armor. Blessed swords, sworn oaths. They were sure they would drive the Turks beyond the Danube, even back to Jerusalem. But they forgot one thing. War is won not by shining armor, but by unshakable will. While sipping their wine, they said, "Even if the sky falls, we shall hold it up with our spears." They were unaware of the surprise fate had prepared for them. Meanwhile, Sultan Bayezid was battering the impenetrable walls of Constantinople. The city was about to fall, but news from the north would change everything. Word arrived that the Crusaders had reached Nicopolis. The Western world never believed he could move so fast. With a single command, a massive army rose. No noise, no chaos. Only the absolute discipline of the Thunderbolt. The Ottoman army crossed the Balkan mountains like a ghost. They covered 50 kilometers a day, an impossible speed for that era. Doğan Bey and his soldiers, trapped in Nicopolis Castle, saw the dust cloud rising on the horizon and knew their savior had arrived. While festivities continued in the Crusader camp, a massive shadow appearing on the horizon silenced everything at once. The Thunderbolt was right in front of his prey. King Sigismund of Hungary favored waiting, but for the French knights, waiting was a disgrace. They had no intention of sharing the victory with anyone. And that massive mass of steel began to flow down the hill toward the Ottoman center with uncontrollable ambition. The earth was shaking. At the very front were the light infantry, the Azaps. They were the first piece of the deadly trap set by the Thunderbolt. The moment the knights thought they had crushed the Azaps, they entered a tunnel of no return. Behind the hill, a terrifying surprise awaited them. Thousands of sharp stakes driven into the ground. The knights' immense speed had now turned into their catastrophe. A knight fallen from his horse was as helpless as a turtle. And that was the moment a true storm broke from behind the hills. The heart of the Ottoman military machine, the Janissaries, took the stage. For them, war was not chaos, but mathematical discipline. King Sigismund watched the destruction of his army and whispered to those beside him, "If not for the arrogance of these French, we would not be here today." Thousands of soldiers threw themselves into the Danube in desperation. The only way out was the river. But the river was not salvation. It was death. The weight of their armor pulled the knights to the bottom like stones. The ships carrying King Sigismund were in danger of sinking under the weight of the thousands of soldiers pouring into the river. The Hungarian king escaped, but he left behind the graveyard of Europe's most elite army. As the ship carrying the king sailed away, there was neither a ship nor hope left for the thousands of knights on the shore. For those who could not reach the river, the war gave way to inevitable surrender or a final hopeless resistance. When night fell, the banks of the Danube echoed not with cries, but with the absolute and cold silence of the victors. When Bayezid reached the riverbank on his horse, he possessed the pride of bringing the most elite army of the Western world to its knees. As the sun rose, the Ottoman camp was buzzing with the sorting of spoils left by Europe's wealthiest aristocracy. The silk fabrics and gold coins brought by the French and Burgundian nobles were the economic prize of the war. Scribes inspected the seals and coats of arms on the prisoners one by one to identify those noble enough to pay a ransom. From among thousands of prisoners, only the highest-ranking counts and dukes were chosen to be kept alive. Jean de Nevers, one of Europe's most powerful princes, was now a priceless political pawn in Bayezid's hands. As Sultan Bayezid received the captive nobles in his imperial tent, he was aware of the global resonance of his victory. He did not make them swear never to take up arms against the Ottomans again. On the contrary, he returned their swords and challenged them. Go and return with even greater armies, so that my victory may be even more glorious. The news of the victory at Nicopolis traveled toward the Islamic and Christian worlds, with messengers scattered in every direction. When the news reached Paris, the French palaces were covered in black cloth. Almost all of the nobility had either perished at Nicopolis or fallen captive. For the Byzantine emperor waiting on the walls of Constantinople, Nicopolis meant that the last hope had also drowned in the waters of the Danube. Cries of victory rose in the streets of Cairo and Baghdad. The Islamic world was celebrating this great defeat of the Crusader ideal. The Abbasid Caliph hailed Bayezid in his letter as the Sultan of the Land of Rûm. This title certified that Bayezid was no longer just a frontier lord, but the legitimate ruler of the Roman lands in the east. Nicopolis deeply shook the European people's trust in knights and nobles. The foundations of the feudal order were cracking. The era of heavy plate armor and arrogant cavalry drew its last breath silently in those muddy plains of Nicopolis. The Ottomans had removed their presence in the Balkans from being a matter of debate and left a mark on the region that would last for 500 years. When Bayezid returned from Nicopolis as a victorious commander, the capital Bursa was preparing for a celebration more magnificent than ever. As a gesture of gratitude for the victory, the Sultan began the construction of one of the most unique works of Islamic architecture, the Bursa Grand Mosque. The massive indoor fountain and the calligraphy decorating the walls were the spiritual transformation of the material power brought by Nicopolis. We were now facing not just a warring principality, but an empire matured with its art, architecture, and law. For Bayezid, Nicopolis was the peak of his life. He was now an unrivaled giant in the lands where East and West met. But history did not forgive pause. The Thunderbolt, who had locked the gates of the West, did not yet see that great cloud of dust coming from the east. On one side, the conqueror of Nicopolis, Bayezid. On the other, Tamerlane, who never knelt in any battle. History was preparing for its greatest duel. The world was now too small. This sky was too narrow to hold two thunderbolts at the same time. Nicopolis is over, but the story of the Ottomans is only just beginning. See you in the next episode in the darkness of the Battle of Ankara.